you for that.
Yeah, now can hear Prabhu.
Okay,
Hare
thank
Krishna.
you. Hare Krishna. Bhakta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sudhe Devi Pranamami Haripriya. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Om Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale.
Still can't hear anything, Prabhu.
Can you hear me? I think some of you can hear me.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I can hear you, Prabhu.
Oh, okay.
I can.
All right. So please check. I'm not sure who said this. Okay. Anyway. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshadarine Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udire Nasta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Slokir Bhaktir Bhavatir Naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam sukamukad amrita dravya samyutam vibhata bhagavatam rasamalayam muhurmaho rasika bhuvi bhavakaha Krishnaya vasudevaya devaki nandanaya cha nandagopa kumaraya govindaya nama pankajanabhaya nama pankajamaline nama pankajanetraya namaste pankajangre Swai me ananya vishaya matir madhupate asakrit ratim udvahatat adha gange vaugam udandate. O Madhupate, as the Ganga forever flows to the sea without hindrance, let my ratim, attraction, be constantly drawn unto you without being diverted to anyone else. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Viknaminash Narasimhaiti Namini Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayatim Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Sri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram Om Tat Sat. So Hare Krishna everyone. So welcome back to our Srimad Bhagavatam session. So we are covering chapter 9 today. This is part 2. 30th session. So before we continue, I thought we have a recap of what we covered in the previous session. It was the first part of the chapter 9. So chapter 9 is entitled The Passing of Bhishma Dev in the Presence of Krishna. So it's a very nice chapter where we can see how to leave the body. So Bhishma Dev sets a very nice example on how to leave the body. So we have covered previously how this scene came to place. So the scene came about, if you look at the previous picture, so it started with basically Uttara coming, because after the battle of Kurukshetra, Krishna was still with the Pandavas, and then when he was about to leave, he was finally, he established Yudhishthira Maharaj as the king of the entire world. And then he got him to perform 3 Aswamedha Yajna sacrifices. And after that, after spending about 3-4 months, Then finally he was about to leave, go back to Dwaraka. So at that time, Ashwatthama, the son of Dronacharya, he was still alive and he was feeling very vengeful. So he released a Brahmastra, a very, very powerful type of Brahmastra called Brahma Sirsha. So this weapon was focused to kill the last of the remaining heir of the Pandavas. Because he wanted to kill the Pandavas, but he couldn't. And his vengeance was, he was feeling very terrible about it. So then he accidentally killed the Pandavas' sons, and he thought, let me just finish the entire job. Let me just end the dynasty. So there is still one more, there are no more children. Pandavas have no more children, except one child who was not yet born. It was still in the womb. So this was the son of Arjuna, the son of Arjuna's son, Abhimanyu. Yes, Abhimanyu's daughter, Abhimanyu's wife was Uttara, and she was conceiving this child. So it's the grandson of Arjuna, and this child was Parikshit. Later will be born as Parikshit. So this Brahma Sirsha, which Ashwatthama released, was about to kill this child. But somehow Uttara got to know, and she immediately went to pray to Lord Krishna. So there were so many other people. There were the fathers, Arjuna, Yudhishthira Maharaj, Bhima. So all of them were there. But still, in all of their presence, she went and prayed to Krishna. Save me, oh Pahi, Pahi, Mahayogi, Deva, Deva, Jagatpate. Nanyam Tvam Abhayan Pasya Yatra Mrityur Parasparam. Oh, this terrible burning arrow is coming towards me to kill my child. So save me. Even if you don't save me, at least save my child from this burning death. So then Krishna immediately expanded himself from the Paramatma within Uttara's heart, and he gave protection. So right after that, again he was about to leave. Krishna was about to leave again, and then Kunti Maharani came, and she was overwhelmed with emotion, and she was saying, so many times you have saved us, O Krishna. So many calamities we have gone through, so many difficulties we have gone. But each time you have been there, and each time you have given us exclusive protection. You have been even kinder to us than Vasudeva and Devaki themselves. So therefore, I pray that let there be more and more difficulties. Let the difficulties come again and again. Because if every difficulty means that we get to have your darshan, then we will not get the darshan of the samsara sagara. We will not get the darshan of the repeated cycle of birth and death, because we get to see your darshan. And your darshan means each time I have difficulties, you are going to be there. So let the difficulties come again and again, so that we can see you again and again. So this is how Kunti Maharani prays. And then she also prays, just sever all my attachments to my family members. So let me only focus my mind, my attraction, my ratim, only unto your lotus feet, O Madhupate. So that just like how the Ganga flows unhindered into the sea, let my ratim, my attraction, flow towards your lotus feet, O Lord of sweetness. So in this way, very beautiful prayers, different types of prayers we have heard already. And then when finally, after offering the prayers, Krishna smiles very enchantingly. You can see this picture here. And he's about to still leave. And at that time, Yudhishthira Maharaj comes and he pleads to Lord Krishna. Together with the Pandavas, together with Kunti Maharani, he requests Krishna to please remain with them a little bit more. So it's a very heartfelt request. And Krishna is again revealed as Bhakta Vatsala. He is controlled by his devotees. No one can control him, but yet he always is controlled by the affection of his devotees. So he decides to stay another 3 to 6 more months. He stays with the Pandavas. But at that time, Yudhishthira Maharaj was very, very depressed. So Krishna has put Yudhishthira Maharaj, the son of Dharmaraj, into illusion, moha. Why? Very much the same reason why Arjuna was put into illusion at the beginning of the battle of Kurukshetra. So there is a purpose, Daiva Tantram. a very wonderful reason. So the reason is, first of all, why Yudhishthira Maharaj is very depressed? Because he was thinking that he was the cause of the death of so many people in the Mahabharata war. So he couldn't take it. Millions and millions of people, animals, elephants, horses, warriors, all have died. So, and he feels this is really very unfortunate. I have caused such a war. So it's very nice. Again and again, we see whenever the devotees of the Lord are used by the Lord and put into illusion, their purpose and their dharma get clouded. But what comes out from their heart is again and again, they are always, they don't blame other people for their mistakes. They don't blame others for their problems. Yudhishthira Maharaj, what comes out from them is compassion. So this indicates the saintly characteristics of the devotees. So first and foremost, they are saintly in behavior, saintly, compassionate. So Krishna wanted to showcase this of the character of Yudhishthira Maharaj, just like how Arjuna was also indicated. Arjuna, first of all, he said he didn't want to fight because he didn't want to kill. He had compassion for so many of them. So though it was illusion, but nevertheless, it was not. Arjuna and Yudhishthira had every reason, had every conceivable reason why they should fight this war. But still, they were always reluctant to cause harm on others. So, Jiva Himsa, they are always reluctant to cause Jiva Himsa. So anyway, Yudhishthira Maharaj was very, very despondent. He was sad. Actually, so many of the sages have already advised him. They've all come and told him already. Vyasadev came and spoke to him. Narada Muni came and spoke to him. All the great rishis came, and his own family rishi, Daumya Muni, came and spoke to him. What to speak of Krishna himself came and spoke to Yudhishthira Maharaj. All of them advised Yudhishthira Maharaj. According to Shastra, according to Dharma, according to scripture, there is nothing wrong on your part. Right? So you are not the cause of all this. This is all part of the destiny of the Supreme. So, but still, Yudhishthira Maharaj, that's the reason he was being put into illusion. So, therefore, there's a reason behind, because Krishna wanted to, number one, he wanted to showcase the wonderful, compassionate qualities of Yudhishthira Maharaj, how saintly he is. Secondly, he wanted to expound the greatness of Bhishma Dev, because he wanted the arrangement. He wanted all of them to go and see Bhishma Dev and hear from Bhishma Dev, and in this way see how great a personality Bhishma Dev is. He wanted to establish Bhishma as one of the 12 Mahajans. Very, very, very great personality. And at the same time, he also wanted to please Bhishma Dev, because he knew Bhishma Dev was still lying. He was lying on the on the bed of arrows. So the bed of arrows, he's not dead yet. He's waiting for the war to be over. Externally, the reason was because he wanted to wait until the sun moves to the northern side so that he can leave at that time, because that's the time the yogis leave. But that's just the external reason. Internal reason is he was waiting for the victory of the Pandavas. He was also waiting to see Krishna before he leaves the body. So, and Krishna knew this, and that's why he made all this wonderful arrangement so that Yudhishthira Maharaj will be put into illusion, and then they will all go and meet Bhishma Dev. So that's how chapter 9 begins. Chapter 9, assembly at Bhishma Deva's deathbed, in the bed of arrows. So Bhishma, as I mentioned, he is Chanda Mrityur. Chanda Mrityur means he has the benediction that he can die at any point he chooses. Nobody can kill him, right? Unless he wants to die, nobody can kill him. So he has that kind of a boon given to him by his father. So, right, so he was waiting there in the bed of arrows. And the chapter describes how Krishna's advised Yudhishthira Maharaj to go in great fanfare, in royal procession, get all the armies, all the people all dressed up very nicely, all in royal pageantry. All of them went in great assembly just to see Bhishmadev. So Krishna purposely did like that because he knew Bhishmadev would be extremely happy to see the Pandavas, particularly Yudhishthira Maharaj, as the reigning king in all his glory. Right? For so long, the Pandavas have been going through so much of difficulty, right? 14 years in the forest, denied their birthright, persecuted by Duryodhana in so many ways. So finally, Bhishmadev will get to see the Pandavas in all their glory. So he knew that this will satisfy the heart of Bhishmadev. So therefore, the Pandavas present themselves in great fanfare for the pleasure of Bharata Pungavam, the chief of the Bharatas. The chief of the Bharatas is Bhishmadev. So just for his pleasure, for the pleasure of the eldest, they all dressed up and went to see him. And then, but Bhishmadev, even despite lying on the bed of arrows, close to death, he was known as, he was still welcoming all of them. And it's described that not just the Pandavas went, not just the entire royal pageantry and all the armies, but even all the great rishis. The assembly consisted of Deva rishis, all the rishis, the munis of the Devas, all the Brahma rishis, all the Raja rishis, right? Like Vishwamitra and others, right? Not only all the greatest rishis in the world, all the pure-hearted souls, the Amala and the Satama Jivas, all the pure-hearted souls in the world, in the universe, together with their disciples, Shishyai, all the disciples, all of them assembled. All of them assembled, and they came to witness the passing of Bhishma, to see what's going to happen. And of course, Lord Krishna was also there. Chakrina is the holder of the chakra. He was also there. So Lord Bhishma Dev, described as Vasu Uttama, he is the foremost of the 8 Vasus. We've described this previously. So he is the foremost of the leader of the Vasus who was cursed in heaven. That's why he took the birth of Bhishma. So he is known as Prabhavajna. That means one who knows the glory of everyone. So Bhishma Dev is very, very intelligent person. He knew the glory of all the rishis, and particularly he knew the glory of the Supreme Lord Krishna. So he welcomed them duly with expert prayers, with expert words. So it's, that's one of the ways to welcome guests, at least with sweet words. So he welcomed them very nicely. And then, Bhishma was ecstatic when he saw the Pandavas. He was very, tears of ecstasy was flowing in his eyes. And he immediately said, "Oh, aho kashtam, aho anyayam, yad yuvam dharma nandanaha." Oh, you son of Dharma, Yudhishthira Maharaj, son of Dharmaraj, and all of you so saintly, wonderful people, the Pandavas. So much of difficulties, aho kashtam, so much of injustice, aho anyayam, that you all have gone through in the hands of Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra, right? Kunti Maharani also, so much of difficulty they have all gone through. Vipra Dharma Achyuta Shrayaha. So, so this kind of difficulties, there is no way you could survive. Normal people, Bahu Kleshan. Kleshan means difficulties. Bahu means so many, again and again and again, so many difficulties you all experienced. So, you normally would not have been able to survive this kind of situation. Normal people would not have survived. The only reason you survived and flourished and emerged victorious is because you surrendered to Vipra. That means you surrendered to a Brahmana. you accepted the words of a Brahmana. So Kshatriyas, they should always follow the advice of Brahmanas. It's not that Kshatriyas are independent, right? They must always be obedient to the Brahmana. So the Brahmana for the Pandavas is Daumya Muni. So even when they were in the forest, they appointed Daumya Muni to come with them and to advise them. So they were always obedient to the words of the Brahmanas. So that saved them in many situations. So Vipra means a learned Brahmana. So you took Ashraya. Ashraya means you took shelter of Vipra, the learned Brahmana. You took shelter of Dharma. You were always acting only for the sake of Dharma, never for your own sake, not for your own pleasure or anything like that. Always for the sake of Dharma. Kept your vision clear. So Vipra, Dharma, and Achyuta. So these three things you took shelter of. Achyuta is Lord Krishna, the infallible. Because of this, you were unconquerable. Nobody could defeat you. And actually, what you went through is all due to the providence of destiny. Sarvam Kala Kritam. All of this is due to Kala only, the moves of destiny. So it's not due to karma. What you have gone through, it's not due to karma. It is actually, therefore, understood to be tasmat idam daiva tantram. Therefore, it is understood that all this is due to the will of the Lord. Daiva tantram. Daiva tantram means the will of the Lord. So in this way, Bhishma Dev welcomes the Pandavas and he tells, very important point he puts here. The important point here is devotees are always never under the influence of karma. Karma doesn't touch devotees. When devotees go through difficulties, reversals, this kind of situations, it is never due to karma. It is due to the mercy of the Lord. So the Lord, and we discussed this point to some extent in the previous session. And so we will move on. So then we have covered that part in the previous session. So now in this chapter, part 2, Bhishma Dev now begins to glorify Krishna. So previously he welcomed everyone, he welcomed the Pandavas, he established this important point, and now he begins to glorify Lord Krishna. So this is verse 18 onwards we're going to cover today. So Bhishma also begins by glorifying Krishna. Remember in Queen Kunti's prayers, we discussed about the 3 types of prayer. One gives, one offers. So the first one is we offer glorification. Oh, you are great, you are wonderful, you are... So in that way, this is called Samprartanatmika. Very feelingly offering prayers. So that is in glorification. So we will hear this. Right, so Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 9, verse 18. I'll just say this verse, it's a nice verse. Actually, Bhishma Dev's chapter has many, many nice verses. So quite a number of verses we will recite in this chapter. Esha vai Bhagavan Sakshat Adyo Narayana Puman Mohayan Mayaya Lokam Dudascharati Vrishnisu. So the first part, Esha vai Bhagavan Sakshat. So Bhishma Dev is now looking at Krishna and is telling the Pandavas still, this Sri Krishna, Bhagavan Sakshat, is no other than the inconceivable original personality of Godhead, right? Adyo means original. Adyo Narayana Puman. He is the original Narayana. So Narayana comes from him only. He is the original source of Narayana. Esha vai Bhagavan Sakshat. He is Bhagavan Sakshat directly. You're actually seeing him. Krishna is the actual Supreme Lord, right? And then he says, Mohayan Mayaya Lokam. So he says, you have only thought that he is you are thinking that he's your friend, or he's your, or, different designations, but actually he is the Supreme Lord. So Bhishma Dev knew the original position of the Supreme Lord. So there is a nice verse here also. Srila Prabhupada points it in the purport. So Srimad Bhagavatam 10, Canto 10, chapter 14, verse 14. Brahma gives a similar prayer to Krishna. So you can see here, these are nice verses to remember, because sometimes devotees get confused, there are some people who will say Narayana is the source of Krishna, that Krishna comes from Narayana. So here we have nice verses, evidence from Srimad Bhagavatam, the cream of all scriptures. So here we can see very nicely. So chapter 10, Canto 10, chapter 14, verse 14, there is another nice verse by Brahma. So I'll just read it this. Are you not the original Narayana? Narayana Tvam Nahi, O Supreme Controller Sarvadehinam. Since you are the soul of every embodied being and the eternal witness of all created realms, Lokasakshi. Indeed, Lord Narayana is your expansion, Narayano Angam. So here's a very nice evidence. He is real, Satyam, not product of your illusory Maya, na tavava Maya. So therefore, again, it's established here that Krishna is the source, right? Swayam Bhagavan Krishna. This prayer, the second prayer, is actually given by Brahma. So moving on, so this is the original personality of Godhead. Bhishma Dev is telling all the Pandavas. But Mohayan Mayaya Lokam, but he is moving amongst the descendants of King Vrishni, Gudas Charati Vrishnisu, Vrishni, just like one of us. So this prayer is very similar to what Kunti Maharani also prays. Remember, if you remember previously, Kunti Maharani also prays like that. He says, you are just like an actor. You have come and taken all these different roles. You have taken birth in the family of the Vrishni dynasty, in the Yadu dynasty. Actually, you are the soul of the universe. So just like how the sun rises from the east, it does not mean that the east has given birth to the sun. It simply means that the sun has honored the east. Just by rising in the east direction is honored, right? That's the mercy of the sun. So the eastern direction cannot take claim that I have given birth to the sun. So similarly, though you take birth in the family of the Vrishni dynasty, in the Yadu dynasty, and so forth, so actually you are the soul of all the entire universe. And it is simply your illusory energy. So he's moving amongst the descendants of Vrishni, just like one of us, just like you and me, just like human beings. But he's not. So, here's another evidence. Sometimes people say, even in India nowadays, you see a lot of people in the movies and in the social media and all that. They like to say Krishna is just an ordinary person. He's just another ordinary person, not a supreme. So Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna says, right? Fools deride me. Fools do not know my transcendental nature. So Bhagavatam also, as you can see here, Bhishma Dev is also re-establishing this fact. Krishna is not ordinary. He's just acting like one of us. So what is he doing? Why are people thinking he's ordinary? Because he is bewildering us with his self-created energy. Maya. Mohayan Maya. So his Maya energy is bewildering everybody. Those who do not deserve to understand the Lord, they cannot know the Lord. The Lord reserves the right to reveal himself to his pure devotees. So, then Bhishma Dev continues. Oh, not this one. I'll just skip this part. This part I was supposed to delete this. Okay. So he continues in verse 19. O King, Lord Shiva, Devarishi Narada, and Kapila confidentially know his glories. So all of them know his glories. Who knows? Lord Shiva knows, Narada Muni knows, Kapila knows. So these are all a few of the 12 Mahajans. You know the 12 Mahajans? There are Shiva, Brahma. Just now we quoted Brahma, the verse. So here Bhishma Dev is quoting Lord Shiva. He's pointing out Lord Shiva. Narada Muni is another Mahajan. Kapila Dev is another Mahajan. Prahlad is another Mahajan. Who else? Sukadev Goswami is also another Mahajan. So in this way, the different Mahajans all understand who is the real personality of God. So here he's just naming a few. Say all of them confidentially know his glories. So they know, right? And Guhya Tamam, the word Guhya Tamam. So sometimes it's not revealed. Why? Because not everybody is ready to accept the point. Because there are people in different modes of nature, and there are people who want to, they are not happy to know Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So therefore, he remains hidden to some people. So they have directly, Sakshat, they have known him directly. O king, out of ignorance only, you thought him to be your maternal cousin, Matulayam. Matulayam means maternal cousin. Because he is the nephew of Kunti Maharani, isn't it? And Kunti Maharani is the mother of Arjuna and the Pandavas. So therefore, they were thinking that Krishna was his cousin. So out of ignorance, actually not really ignorance, it is Maya, induced ignorance, Daiva Tantram, due to the will of the Lord. Because this is a pastime. They were thinking that he is cousin, that he is Priya Mitram. Priya Mitra means very dear friend. Priyam Mitra. Mitra means friend. Very, very dear friend. He was acting as Suhurtamam. Suhurtamam means well-wisher. Always giving well-wish advices. Sachivam. Sachivam means counselor. Giving good counsel. He gave counsel to Yudhishthira Maharaj. Each time Arjuna will get into some difficulties, he gives some good advice. Dutam. He was also a messenger. When the war was about to occur, Yudhishthira Maharaj requested Krishna to be a messenger and to go to the court of Dhritarashtra and again one last time beg for peace. So he acted as messenger, in different times. So the Supreme Lord took part in various roles, just like an ordinary person, and he took part as Sarathim, a charioteer. So people in this way, they think that Krishna is an ordinary person. But actually, all of this was done by his goodwill alone. This was simply Krishna's goodwill, that he did all these things just for all of you. You are his dearest devotees. So in this way, Bhishma was indirectly glorifying the Lord, but he was actually also glorifying the Pandavas. So if these are not his qualities, if he is not all this, if he's not a friend, if he's not really a counselor, if he's not really a charioteer, then what are his real qualities? Question may arise. So because of this question, Bhishma, predicting this question, he continues with the next verse. And the next verse is very important. So it indicates what is the quality of the Lord. It's actually very, very important. One of the milestone verses we have to know in order for us to understand the other cantos. Because we cannot understand the other cantos until we get certain basic information about the Lord. So this is one of those verses. So I'll say the verse. Sarvatmana samadrisho hi advayasyana hankritehi tatkritam ati vaishamyam niravadasyana vachit. So this is verse 21 of chapter 9, Canto 1. So here, Sarvatmana samadrisho. So it basically means these are the qualities. Sarvatmana, Samadrisho, Hi Adhyaya, and Anahan Krite. These are the four important qualities which is being highlighted in this verse. So what are they? Sarvatmana means one who is present in everyone's heart. Sarva means everywhere, Atma. Atmana, the soul everywhere. So what is that? That's the Paramatma, isn't it? So it's present in everyone's heart. So this we have to understand, right? He's all pervading. He knows everything. He's all cognizant, all pervading. He's everywhere. So that's the first point which we have to understand. Second point about his quality is he is samadrishaha. Samadrishaha means one who is sama, equal drishaha. Drisha means kind. His mercy is equal to all jivas. So it's wrong to say that he is, he's more merciful to some people. He's not merciful to everybody. So actually, it's not like that. His mercy is extended to everyone. It is simply whether or not they want to accept his mercy. So this point was also discussed by Kunti Maharani. If you remember, the example was given, the example of the sun. Just like the sun shines, the sun equally gives its light everywhere. Does the sun say that, oh, you are a criminal, therefore I will not shine in your house, right? Or you are a bad person, I will not give my sunlight in your house. It doesn't say like that, isn't it? The sun equally gives its mercy everywhere. But there are some people who don't want to accept the mercy of the sun. They don't want to receive the sun. So they go and hide under the shade, right? Or some people completely sleep during the day, like the thief and the dacoit. They sleep during the day and they wake up during the night. They don't receive the blessing. They choose not to receive the blessings of the sun. So in the same way, all jivatmas equally have the opportunity and the blessings of the Lord. But according to their, thinking, they choose to not accept. So therefore, Krishna is known as Samadrishaha, one who is equally kind to everyone. So that we have to understand. He is never, therefore, why this point is very important, because in the latest cantos, there will be many, many important pastimes, very bewildering pastimes, particularly, the conclusion with the gopis. Oh, why did Krishna behave in such an immoral way with the gopis? Oh, why is he doing like that, like a playboy and all that? So in order to understand that, we first have to understand that this verse, I'll come to that point. So here are some 4 points we have to understand about the Supreme Lord. Number one, he's in everyone's heart. Number two, and he knows everything. Number two, he is equal to everyone. So this is an important point I will raise up again, just for a moment. And the third one is Adyasya, Advayasya. Advayasya means absolute, one who is absolute. Oops, sorry. So absolute, he's completely, there's nothing beyond him. He's everything. And the last one is Ahankritehe, free from all material identity or false ego. So he's not like us. He is completely free from material identity. There is nothing to do with matter with him, and there is no false ego acting in him. He's completely spiritual. So these 4 points are interesting because they are completely opposite what the jivas have, the quality of the jiva. In the quality of the jiva, particularly the conditioned jiva, the jiva which is conditioned, right? They are completely opposite these 4 qualities. Like the Lord is Sarvatmana, he's everywhere, he knows everything, whereas we have imperfect senses. There's nothing we actually know. We depend on everything in order to know things. If we may be very proud of our eyes, but without the sun, there is no point in our seeing, right? Without light, we cannot see anything, no matter how wonderful our eyes are. So in the same way, we depend on the Lord's mercy for knowledge. So we have imperfect senses, whereas the Lord is not. And He's Samadrishaha, equal to everyone, right? Whereas we are always illusioned. So because we are illusioned, we have Dvaita. We sometimes, have a friend, enemy. We have dualities. So whereas the Lord is Samadrishaha. So this duality is due to illusion, to think that we are the body, to accept ourselves as the body. So in this way, we are conditioned by our mind. We see enemy, friend, heat, cold, happiness, distress. So therefore, we become illusioned. So that is the quality of the jiva. Imperfect senses, tendency to be illusioned. And the third one, unlike the Lord who is absolute and perfect, we make mistakes. So this is the 4 qualities of the jiva, right? And the last one, the Lord is always free from material identity and false ego. So, but we, due to being driven by our false ego, we have the tendency to cheat. Nobody in this world who has taken birth can say that I have not cheated in my life, right? When we are children, we definitely would have cheated our parents, cheated our teachers, cheated our friends, right? So cheating is sort of inbuilt in our psychology. So these are the jiva's qualities, unfortunately, the conditioning, right? Very different compared to Krishna's qualities. So we can see here the contrast. Why I'm putting this contrast? So because the next part of the verse, Tat kritam mati vaisamyam niravadyasya na kvachit. So what it says, therefore, because Krishna is all these quality, very important point here, right? Because of all this quality, the conclusion is Krishna's actions and conduct are always, number one, free from material inebriety. That means there is nothing that he can do wrong. Materially, sometimes we can judge, some people, oh, you do this, it's not right. Oh, how can they, how can Krishna steal butter? How can Krishna steal the clothes of the gopis? Isn't that right? How can he set such an example? How can he, tell Arjuna to shoot the arrow and kill Karna, who is, it's not fair. So this kind of reasonings, these are all material reasonings. It's not real, it's not correct. So we have to understand very strongly that Krishna's actions are always free from material inebriety. There is never that anything he's doing is wrong because he is the established, because he's Adhyasya, he's absolute. Morality, dharma, everything is under him. He's beyond all these things. That doesn't mean that whatever he does is immoral. Whatever he does is good. Whatever he does is morality itself. Just like when he steals the butter and he steals the clothes of the gopis want it to happen. Nobody is put into a disadvantage, right? No jivatma is put into a bad position by Krishna's actions. Whatever action Krishna does, it is all good and all beneficial for every living entity in the entire creation. So when he kills demons, the demons are liberated, right? They get liberation. When he does something, right, it is always, there is a reason behind. So we have sometimes we may not understand the reason due to lack of knowledge, due to lack of understanding the scriptures. But we should have this important faith, which is set in this first canto. That's why the first 2 cantos are very, very important in Srimad Bhagavatam. To build that foundation of faith, which helps us to build our understanding of Krishna as we go into later cantos. Otherwise, without this basic foundation, our understanding will be flawed. We will be filled with doubts, and then we will start to offend in our mind. So that will be a problem, right? So 2 things. Therefore, Krishna's actions are always free from material inebriety, right? Number 2, it is equibalanced. There is always balance in whatever he does. Never it is, not sama. somebody is more benefited, somebody is less benefited. Never. He is equal. You know, Bhagavad Gita also, he says, right? I reciprocate equally according to your faith. So he is the best perfect calculator. He calculates exactly. And he always gives a bit extra. So this is Krishna. So therefore, Krishna's actions are neither superior nor inferior. No matter what he does, it's not that one thing he does is better than another thing he does. It's not that he does action A is greater, action B is lesser. No, every action is done at the same platform. They are neither superior nor inferior. They are all absolute. So therefore, his stealing the butter is sweet. You know, the very beautiful song, Madhurashtakam, right? It describes how everything that Krishna does is sweet, absolute. His stealing is sweet, his dancing is sweet, his running away from a battle is also sweet. Therefore, he's called Ranchorai, right? Krishna ran away from one battle. So the people used to call him Ranchorai, one of his names. But it's sweet, and it's a very wonderful pastime. And so like that, everything he does is sweet and absolute. So that's a very important point. So this verse comes here, right? So, and yet, despite all these qualities of Krishna, how he is equal to everyone, how he is Samadarsha to everyone, right? How is absolute, despite all this, tatapi, right? In BM also we understand tatapi. So tatapi, and yet what? The next verse, Bhishma continues, O king, tatapi, O king, just see how Sakshat Krishna, directly Krishna is giving me darshanam. He has come all the way just to give darshanam to me. Now I am not even his family. You are Arjuna, you are all the Pandavas, you are all related to him. And I am not even his family. I am in fact on the opposite side of the war fighting. I shot arrows at Krishna, hoping that Krishna will come at me in battle, right? But despite all this, see, O king, just see how Krishna has come right in front of my eyes while I am ending my life. Because I am his ekanta bhakteshu. So what he's saying is, because I am his unalloyed devotee. Eka anta. Eka means I'm the only person I am devoted to is the Supreme Lord. Therefore, I am his pure devotee. So the point he's passing here is, despite being Samadarsha, equal to everyone, despite being absolute, at the same time, he is always a little extra special to his pure devotees. He takes the extra mile. He always does the extra mile for his pure devotees. So this point I've mentioned before, again and again, in previous sessions also. This is the wonderful, beautiful Bhakta Vatsala quality of Krishna, where it's just like a parent. A parent is equal to all his children, right? But the child who is always worshipping the parent, always following the parent, always in love with the parent, coming after the parent will have a little extra affection, right? This is not unfair. This is not to say that one is, equally everybody will be given everything, right? But there will be extra affection. That is the right of the parent, right? For the child who is extra devoted to the parent. So similarly, the Lord is extra devoted to the pure devotee. Just see how he has come in front of Bhishmadev at the end of his life. So here Bhishma is giving his prayer. It's called Dainya Vodika. He's humbly submitting himself. I am actually in a very low position, right? But still the Lord is so kind that graciously he has come at the time of my death. So here's another beautiful verse. Bhaktya Vishya Mano Yasmin Vachayannama Kirtayan Tyajan kalevaram yogi muchyate kama karma bihi. So Tyajan kalevaram, at the time of quitting this body. So this verse is also, this particular words are also found in Bhagavad Gita chapter 8, right? Where Krishna is saying that at the time of death, right, the soul leaves and goes to a different body. So what you think at the time of death? So Tyajan kalevaram. So again, this point, at the time of leaving the body, right, the yogi. So here yogi refers to bhakti yogi, the devotee, because the devotee is also yogi. So what happens at this point? Krishna mano yasmin. Krishna comes into the mind. Krishna mano yasmin. Krishna comes into the mind of the pure devotee, of the yogi at the time of death. So what kind of devotees Krishna will come into the mind? For who will Krishna come into the mind at the time of death? Therefore Bhishma defines over here. He will come for those who are bhaktya and aveshya. So bhaktya means one who is devoutly attention, one who has devout attention to the Lord. So he is a devotee, a pure devotee, not a mixed devotee, a pure devotee, only thinking of the pleasure of the Lord, right? So for him, and aveshya, those who are meditating upon the Lord, who think of the Lord, right? So one who with devout attention, very carefully thinking of the Lord at the time of death, for them, Krishna will appear in the mind. How he will appear? So by thinking of him, by meditating on the Lord, it manifests itself in the form of vacha. Vacha means speaking. Speaking what? Nama kirtayan, by chanting the names of the Lord. So by chanting the names of the Lord at the time of death, automatically Krishna is there, present. So it is understood that anyone who speaks the words, chanting the name of the Lord at the time of death, it is to be understood that Krishna is directly manifesting in his mind. So for these are the people, so this is what devotional life is all about. The entire bhakti yoga is about becoming a devotee, mad bhakta, and in this way, focusing one's mind, meditating upon the thinking of the Lord. How will we be able to think of the Lord? We will be able to think of the Lord only if we continuously chant our lives. We spend our lives chanting of the names of the Lord, then we will be able to think of the Lord with devout attention. And what will this result in? This will result in muchyate, liberation. Liberation from kama. Kama means from lust, and karma bihi, from the effects of karma. So liberation from lust and the effects of karma. So he will liberate us. Then continuing with this verse, next verse, 24. So in this way, Bhishma Dev prays, may my Lord, Deva Deva Bhagavan, O Supreme Lord, who is the Lord of all the Devatas, may my Deva Deva Bhagavan, who is Chatur Bhuja, four-armed. Now, Bhishma Dev knows that Krishna is the Supreme Original Personality of Godhead, but Bhishma Dev, his deity is Narayana, in the form of Narayana. So therefore, he is meditating upon his the deity which he has always prayed to. So, and the Lord Krishna is manifesting himself just for the pleasure of Bhishma. He manifested four arms so that Bhishma is able to see. So therefore, Chatur Bhuja, four-armed. May my Lord, who is Chatur Bhuja, Prasanna Hasa, cheerfully smiling, beautiful, effulgent smile, who is Aruna Lochan, whose eyes are red like the rising sun. Very beautiful, very reddish tinged eyes, just like the rising sun. Who is Ullasat Mukam Bhujaha, whose face, Mukha, is decorated, Ullasat, with Ambuja, just like a lotus face. His lotus face is very beautifully decorated, right? So this is the quality that he is meditating upon. He's remembering the Lord in this way. And then he said, may my Lord, who is Chaturbhuja, who is four-armed, who is smiling enchantingly, who has beautiful reddish eyes, just like the sunrise, and whose face is beautifully decorated, lotus-like face is beautifully decorated. May this Lord kindly await me in the path of my meditation, dhyana patas. As I am meditating in the path of my meditation, may he appear in the path of my meditation at that moment when I quit this body. So it's a very nice prayer, isn't it? So we can try to remember this verse and try to remember that also. Hopefully it will come in our mind when we are leaving the body. So again, Bhishma Dev is humbly submitting himself. So Bhishma doesn't think that I'm a great devotee, I'm a great personality. He still submits to the Lord. By your grace, by your mercy, I depend upon. So this kind of prayer. So then Suta Goswami, who is narrating this entire incident, he tells Maharaj Yudhishthira, Suta Uvacha, Maharaj Yudhishthira asked Sayanam Sara Panjare in the presence of all the great rishis. He asked Bhishma, Sayanam Sara Panjare is Bhishma Dev. What does this mean? This is one of the names of Bhishma. Sayanam means to lie down. Lying down on Shara Panjare. Shara Panjare means the bed of arrows. So sometimes Bhishma is also known as Sayana Shara Panjare, one who is lying on the bed of arrows. So this is a very, very special pastime. Lying on the bed of arrows, sitting next to him are the Pandavas, Krishna himself, and Yudhishthira Maharaj is now asking Bhishma to speak. What he's asking? He's asking about the essential principles of various dharmas. So this is the real purpose. Krishna put Yudhishthira into illusion. Krishna put Arjuna into illusion so that Krishna could speak Bhagavad Gita. And now Krishna is putting Yudhishthira Maharaj into illusion, the son of Dharma Raja into illusion, so that Bhishma can speak about Dharma to the son of Dharma Raja. So it's a very, very interesting conversation. It's there in the Mahabharata. It's the entire Parva of Mahabharata, the Shanti Parva. It talks about how Bhishma Dev speaks about various dharmas, religiosity, the various duties of human beings. So it's a very important point. We should know our duties, right? So Prabhupada puts his purport here. Lord Sri Krishna wanted to prove that his pure devotees, although apparently living as a worldly man, is far superior to many great sages, even Vyasadeva. So he's trying to establish the greatness of Bhishma. Bhishma is a Mahajan. Vyasadeva is not a Mahajan though. Of course, Vyasadeva is Satyavesh avatar. He's a Jiva who has the power of the Lord to write the scriptures. But still, Bhishma Dev is greater. He's a great devotee. He's a pure devotee. So this is again Krishna trying to glorify. He's trying to put the pure devotee in a higher position than himself. This is what, like every parent likes to see his own child greater than him, right? So in the same way, Krishna wants to glorify Arjuna even to the extent of being greater than his Satyavesh avatar. So although apparently, Bhishma Dev was, people may misunderstand. Oh, Vyasadeva is a great saint. Yes, we all know he's living in the forest. He's renounced. And look at Bhishma Dev. Bhishma Dev is a grihastha. Sorry, not a grihastha. He's living as a worldly man, He's not renounced. He's a Kshatriya within the Varnashram. And he not only that, he is serving the king. And what kind of king is serving Dhritarashtra? And he was serving Duryodhana, not particularly serving Duryodhana, he's serving Dhritarashtra, the king. Actually, he was serving the throne. His promise was, I will serve the throne, whoever sits in the throne, not the person. So at that time, Dhritarashtra was sitting in the throne, unfortunately. So anyway, Bhishma was a very, very great personality. Even in this kind of situations, even in such a difficult kind of situation, he, in his heart of heart, he was always a pure devotee. So, and it's time the world knew about it. So that's why Krishna arranged this situation for Bhishma's glories to be expounded. So Krishna wanted to prove that his pure devotees are always sound in body and mind by dint of spiritual enlightenment, and thus in any circumstances a devotee of the Lord is in perfect order to speak of the right way of life. So he wanted to show, Bhishma, he is lying on a bed of arrows. One can just imagine what kind of pain one is going through, right? Sometimes we are sick. Even lying on a comfortable bed itself, we feel so much pain. Here, Bhishma Dev is lying on a bed of arrows, thousands of arrows holding his body up against gravity, and his body is moving downwards, right? Supported only by the sharp points of the arrows which have pierced his flesh and pierced his bones. The agony, the torment that Bhishma Dev may be going through. But still, he was sound in mind, and he was still able to answer. Of course, he's a Kshatriya, but at the same time, he was able to. So it indicates that he was feeling the pain. It's not that he was not feeling the pain. Later, in the later verses, we will see how Krishna takes away the pain. Right? So even at the time of death, even in such situations, Krishna wanted to show that devotees, their mind is always focused upon the Supreme Lord. They are never disturbed in any kind of trials, any kind of disturbing situation. This is the wonderful benediction of a pure devotee. So we all should aspire to become a pure devotee, right? So we can be in this state. Actually, Prabhupada showed that, when Prabhupada was leaving the body, even before, there is a nice verse by Kulashekara Alvar. King Kulashekara Alvar, he says in his Mukunda Mala Stotra, there is a nice prayer, Mukunda Mala Stotra. So over there, he says, at the time of death, let me die now when I'm healthy and my mind is firm and I'm able to think, because at the time of death, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, these three things will choke me. They will choke me and I will not be able to speak and I will not be able to think. And the trauma at the time of death will be so difficult. How will I be able to think of you, O Lord? So let me think of you now while I'm healthy and I'm fine. Let me die now itself. So that's how King Kulashekara Alvar's prayer goes. But still, the devotee, by the grace of the Lord, even in such a situation, still his mind is very firm. And the example is Srila Prabhupada himself. The final lesson, Srila Prabhupada showed by example how when he was dying, just minutes and seconds before he was going to die, what was he doing? The entire day he was giving Srimad Bhagavatam lecture. He was fasting for the last few days of his life. He was no longer eating already, the last few days of his life. He was just lying bedridden, but he was still giving Srimad Bhagavatam classes, lecture. He was translating the verses, giving purports. So if you still go to Srimad Bhagavatam 10th Canto, you will be able to see in the beginning, the last few verses of Srimad Bhagavatam where Prabhupada was reciting. This was at the time of his death. Very amazing. So it goes to show the clarity of the pure devotee. These are not just simply words. The Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada is living Bhagavatam. And not just Srila Prabhupada, so many other devotees also, Gaur Govinda Maharaj, before he died, before he left the body, on the day of Radhastami, he was giving a class and immediately he chanted Radha, Gopal, Gopal, and then he passed away, just like that, left his body. And then we have Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj also, who also passed away in wonderful circumstances. So anyway, So this is the final lesson. We can see an example of Srila Prabhupada showing the proving the verse. So, and the third point Prabhupada puts in the purport is that worship is more valuable than the worship of the Lord himself. The father likes to see the son becomes more famous than himself. So basically he's trying to glorify Bhishma Dev. So this is the nature of the Lord. The Lord is always looking for opportunities to glorify his pure devotees. And because of this, he sometimes puts them into difficult conditions. Because how to glorify someone? You glorify someone when you see the wonderful quality come out of that person, right? When do we see this? We see this when they are put into difficult situations. When a person is put into difficult situation, that time only we will be able to see the quality of that person. What kind of quality of that person, right? When everything is wonderful, you can't really see whether that person has any quality or depth in his character. But when difficulties come, you see how they are handling it. So that is when the glories come out. So that's why devotees are put into very great difficulties, just so that, like how Jesus was put into the cross. Even when Jesus was being crucified in the cross, what did Jesus think? Was he thinking that, oh Lord, strike down with lightning and thunder these infidels who have dared to do this to your disciples? Did he say like that? No. He said, oh Lord, please forgive these people. They know not what they are doing. So like that, Haridas Thakur also, he was being, he was harmed in so many ways. He was whipped in 22 marketplaces, but still he was always he was always their well-wisher. Of course, these are not ordinary people. These are great devotees, right? We also, go through our difficulties, our small, tiny difficulties in our life, so we can remember the Lord in this way. This is the Lord's blessing. Remember, it is not karma. The moment we chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, it is no longer karma that we go through in our lives. It is simply the Lord's mercy. So pure devotee always thinks like that. So now Bhishma Dev instructs. He begins his instruction. Very quickly we will cover these instructions. Just a moment. My battery is going low. Let me find the battery for that. Just a moment. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. All right. So Bhishma Dev begins his instruction. So he instructs about dharma. So thus Bhishma Dev first described Varnam and Ashram by Swabhava. What does that mean? He talks about Varna, Ashrama. Varna means the four castes, Shudra, Vaishya, Kshatriya, Brahmanas. And then the ashrams, the four ashrams, Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa. So they are described according to Swabhavaha. That means one's own qualities, not according to birth. According to one's Swabhava. Swa means own, one's own bhava, qualities, his own feelings, qualities. So in this way, one is categorized into the four varnas and the four ashrams. So Bhagavad Gita also Krishna says, right? The varnashram system was established by him. So actually, Bhishma here is describing the pravriti marga, the path of material auspiciousness. So he begins with that, talking about the four divisions of varnashram. And then in twofold divisions, he describes how to counteract materialistic life. So first he describes pravriti marga, which is the path of materialistic life, which is also auspicious because gradually one makes advancement. Why? Because they are following the system of Varna and Ashram, which is set by the Lord. So simply because they are following the rules and regulations set by the Lord, gradually they make advancement. Even though it is karma kanda, But piety will eventually build upon, finally the piety will bring about Agyata Sukriti. It brings about association of pure devotees, and there is a chance of getting Agyata Sukriti, and in this way they may get, bhakti. So that is the beginning. This is Pravriti Marga, Karma Kanda section. He talks all about that. And then in twofold divisions, he tells everyone how to counteract this Karma Kanda, how to go beyond. So what are the two ways in which one can counteract this Karma Kanda? So the Pravriti Marga, and there is the Nivriti Marga. Nivriti means is the path of renunciation. Not after sense gratification. So this path of Nivriti Marga has two sections, two branches. One is the impersonal path, Vairagya, detach, renounce completely, right? But they do not understand about getting attached to the higher taste. They only want to renounce, like Buddhists. They want to commit spiritual suicide. They just want to become nothing. So that is negating everything, and they end the cycle of birth and death. That is also yoga, right? It breaks the cycle of birth and death, but it is premature. The other method is by raga. Raga is the bhakti path. Raga means attachment, is opposite to vairagya. Vairagya means is to renounce, is to detach. Yes, both are actually detaching from material things. So both are detaching. That's why it's called Nivriti Marga. But one is purely just detachment, vairagya, just detach only. So it's like, they do the Ashtanga yoga to mechanically detach themselves. But the better method is by raga, attachment. Attachment not to matter, but attachment to Krishna consciousness, to the devotees, to Krishna and his devotees and his paraphernalia. So the more we develop attachment to the Lord, automatically detachment happens. So that's the secret. That's the wonderful way of bhakti. Simply by developing more and more attachment to Krishna, automatically detachment will be there, right? Don't have to extraneously work on detachment. So we just have to work on getting attached to Krishna only. So these two methods are described by Bhishma Dev. So it's there in the Shanti Parva in the Mahabharata. Then he also describes Dana Dharmam. Dana Dharma means the dharma of charity. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, right? Charity has time, place, circumstances. We have to give charity in the right time, the right place, in the right circumstance, to the right person. There are three modes: mode of goodness, charity in the mode of goodness, charity in the mode of passion, and so forth. So that kind of detailed description is given in Dana Dharma. Who should give dana? How should one give dana? What are the circumstances one should give dana? What are the different types of dana? So all this is given in the Bhishma Dev's instruction. He also talks about Raja Dharma, the dharma of the leader of society, or the king, right? So that is the Raja Dharma in detail. So Prabhupada gives very extensive purports to all of these different points. It will not be possible to explain all of them in this session. Otherwise, it will be very, very long. Please do read these verses, 1.927. If you go through the purport, you can find out a bit more about all these different types of dharma. Of course, if you go through the Mahabharata Shanti Parva, you will find much more. But no need to go through Mahabharata also, because later cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam will also cover all these things. So no worries. Just have to wait. Bhagavatam is enough. So then there is Moksha Dharma. Moksha Dharma is the dharma of one who wants to get liberated. So this is yoga, the path of yoga. And then there is Stri Dharma. Also very important. Stri means lady, woman. The dharma of the lady. So this is also described very nicely, how chastity is very important for the lady, right? And then Bhagavat Dharman. So this is also Nivriti Marga. Bhagavat Dharman, how to develop loving devotion to the Supreme Lord. So this is beyond moksha dharma. Moksha dharma is not the end, because we may get liberation, but the liberation is not permanent, because our soul is not in its actual position of Jivera Swarupa Krishna Nityaradas. So before we come to that position to understand that we are the servant, eternal servant of Krishna, even if we get moksha, liberation, we will again fall down. So one has to come to Bhagavad Dharma, then only one will be permanently situated. So all this is instructed by Bhishma Dev. And then in the next verse, he describes Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha, the four cycle of human being. In human being, in their life, there will be, these are the four cycles. Dharma means one's duties. By performing one's duties, one will get Artha, wealth. So the different types of wealth, what is considered wealth, how should one acquire wealth lawfully, legally, according to Dharma. So all this is there in the Vedas. And Kama, how to satisfy one's desire legally, according to scripture. So different types of scripture is there in the Vedas also. So one performs one's duty, one gets wealth, and using the wealth, one satisfies one's desires, karma. And after doing all this for a very long time, one may get frustrated and wisdom may come. And then one may decide that, okay, enough of satisfying my senses. Let me just get liberation. So then one may come to this point of moksha. So this is usually the cycle that human beings go through in life. But one wants to break this cycle. So then one must come to Bhagavad Dharma. So how does Bhishma instruct? In what way does Bhishma instruct all these different dharma? He instructs by division. He breaks them into divisions very systematically. He talks both generally and explicitly. Very briefly, he gives this discussion, and very detailedly, he also gives this discussion. So this indicates the great personality of Bhishma Dev, how wonderful he is, that he knows all of this. So, and how else does he instruct? By citing instances from history. Just like a good teacher doesn't give just theory. When we learn something, sometimes we just tell the theory, how it works. It's not enough. We need to give examples, right? Then only we can understand how the theory works. So therefore, Bhishma is a very great teacher. He cites instances from history. Now, mind you, he's doing all this lying on a bed of arrows. No mean feat. So all this is doing expertly. He is giving all these instructions. And what is Bhishma's qualification? Right? The verse 28 also tells what is his qualification. He is Tattvavit, himself well acquainted with the truth. He knows the truth of everything. So therefore, he is the perfect person, giving perfect instruction in all the various dharma. To who he is giving this instruction? To Dharmaraj, the son of Dharmaraj. He is giving instruction to the son of Dharmaraj, the incarnation of Dharma himself. So that's a very, very interesting point. So it goes to show how the pure devotee is beyond. By the way, Dharma, Yamaraj is also one of the 12 Mahajans, a pure devotee of the Lord. So Krishna is glorifying Bhishma to such an extent that he is capable of giving lecture on Dharma to the son of Dharma. So this is the greatness of Bhishma. Just a bit more before we end. I think we don't have time to go through these qualities. So anyway, I will skip this part and I will save this for the next session. Let me just end all this. Basically, these are from Prabhupada's purport. He talks about the duties of the Shudra, of the Vaishya, of the Kshatriya, of the Brahmana. So I'll skip all this verse of the Varnashram, how Varnashram works. Let me go straight to the verse so we can end. So therefore, Bhishma Dev gives a lot of instruction on Dharma, and the largest part of the Mahabharata is called the Shanti Parva. And that is where Bhishma gives all these instructions. So if you ever get the Mahabharata, you can read it up. It's a very long thing. So there are other scriptures which also gives the duties like Manusmriti, and you can also find it in Srimad Bhagavatam, later cantos. So anyway, while discussing all this, while Bhishma Dev was describing occupational duties, what has happened? The seasons have passed, right? Yoginas chanda mrityur vanchitas tu uttarayanaha. The sun has started to move in the northern direction. So Bhishma Dev, who is known as Chanda Mrityur means one who is able to die at any time he wishes. So he was waiting, right? He is waiting because he's waiting for the sun to start moving in the northern direction, because this is an auspicious time to die. So this happens after Pongal, Makara Sankranti onwards. The sun starts to move in the northern hemisphere until about August, September, I think, during the Kataka Sankranti. So 6 months. So this is known as Uttarayana, the sun moving in the northern hemisphere. So it's a very auspicious time to die. And yogis want to usually die during this period. So that's the external reason Bhishma Dev is giving, but actually he was just waiting for Krishna to come. Because the devotees of the Lord don't depend on all this. They depend only on the Lord. So while this was happening, the sun was moving in the northern direction. Thereupon, that man, and he is known as Sahasranir. Sahasranir means one who has done thousands. Sahasra means thousands upon thousands. What are the thousands upon thousands of things he has done? Thereupon, that man who spoke on different subjects with thousands of meanings. So he is very, very learned. He spoke on so many diverse matters. He's an expert warrior. He could defeat even Parashuram by the blessings of Parashuram himself. Parashuram gave him the blessing that no one can defeat him in battle if he wanted to, right? So with that kind of blessing he had, so he was the greatest warrior on earth. And he was also greatly learned. He knew all the dharmas, and he was a great personality. As a Kshatriya, he took the vow of celibacy. Very, very great vow he took. So a lot of greatness is upon him. And who fought on thousands of battlefields and protected thousands of men. Therefore, he is known as Sahasrani. Thousands upon thousands. His acts and his glories are in the thousands. Right? So such a personality, Bhishma Dev, Devarata, he stopped speaking because his time is up, right? Externally, his reason was the sun has now moved in the northern direction, but he is now ready to leave. And being completely freed from all bondage, Vimukta Sangam, no more any bondage, completely freed from everything, he withdrew his mind from everything else. So this is the way to die. He's showing the example. And fixed his wide open eyes upon Adi Purushe Krishna, the original personality of Godhead Krishna. So Bhishma Dev knows Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. But still, he wished to see Krishna in the four-armed form. So Chatur Bhuje Krishna, that is his, because that's his bhava. That's how he was worshipping the Lord. So, and Krishna reciprocated. He manifested in front of his eyes as Chatur Bhuje, dressed in yellow garments which glittered and shined. So this is Krishna's reciprocation with his pure devotee who was about to leave the body. And by pure meditation, Visuddha Dharana, that means with being purified, Visuddha Dharana means concentration. By pure concentration, looking at Lord Sri Krishna, thus all the external activities of his senses at once stopped. No more other external senses. He at once was freed from all Ashubhaha. Ashubhaha means inauspiciousness. Shubha means auspicious. Ashubhaha means inauspicious. He was at once freed from all inauspiciousness and was relieved of all bodily pains. simply because he was able to focus his mind upon Krishna. So simply by focusing one's mind very strongly upon Krishna, one can free oneself from all inauspiciousness and relieve oneself from all bodily pain. So even the pain of being lying on the bed of arrows was removed by the grace of Krishna. And in this way, clear of mind, he prayed transcendentally to Janardana. So what does he do in such a situation? He started praying, offering wonderful prayers and offering wonderful, and then he started to meditate in the Lord while quitting his body. So we will see this, how Bhishma prays to the Lord and what is his meditation at the time of death. So this will be our next session. I will also talk about the Varnashram Prabhupada's purport briefly in the next session. And then we will quickly move on to Bhishma Dev's final prayers and meditation to close this chapter. So with that, we can end today. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So Hare Krishna devotees, if there are any questions or any doubts or clarifications, I can try to see.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Prabhu, I got two questions, Prabhu, if you don't mind.
Yeah, happy.
Question one, before Bhishma was down by the Pandavas with the arrows, he raised bow and arrow against Supreme Lord Krishna. Even though he knows he's the Supreme Lord, but yet he pointed the arrow at Supreme Lord and shoot at him. How come he knows that he's a Supreme Lord, but he's shooting at Supreme Lord like that to aggregate his anger to come and fight?
Okay, that's your first question. What's the second question?
Yeah. Okay, my second question, when Bhishma was alive, no one went to Bhishma for advice. In Mahabharatam Santi Parva, Emperor Yudhishthira had a lot of questions. He asked a lot of questions to Bhishma while Bhishma was in the bed of arrow, dying position. I mean, he would have always referred to him when Bhishma was in a good condition. Why during the time of death?
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. I'll answer the second question first. That's actually what we were discussing today. The reason was Yudhishthira Maharaj was put into illusion. So while Bhishma was alive, Yudhishthira Maharaj also knew he's Dharmaraj. So he knew all these answers and Krishna was there to advise. But the point is, nobody knew the glory of Bhishma Dev when Bhishma Dev was alive. So they didn't see how great, I mean, they knew he was a great warrior, but they did not know about his knowledge of Dharma and all these other things. So it was Krishna's desire that at the time of death of Bhishma Dev, he wanted the whole universe to know how wonderful and how glorious Bhishma is. So that's why he arranged this situation where he purposely put no other person other than Yudhishthira Maharaj himself, the son of Dharmaraj, into illusion about Dharma so that he can ask Bhishma about Dharma. So it looks like Bhishma is instructing the son of Dharmaraj about Dharma. So such a great thing, you know. So he and the audience, he was surrounded by audience. The great Deva Rishis, Raja Rishis, the purest devotees in the world, all of them were assembled and they were all hearing. So Krishna, this is Krishna. When Krishna wants to glorify, you know, this is how he glorifies. To the extent that, you know, nobody else is glorified like this. So that's what he does. So that's the reason he's doing this at the time of death. Right?
Okay.
So
Thank you, Prabhu.
the first
First
question,
question.
okay, the first question, actually, we covered this also in the previous session. Bhishma Dev, okay, there are several reasons. One reason, Bhishma Dev knew Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And
Okay.
Bhishma Dev wanted to know what Krishna will do to protect the Pandavas. He wanted to bring out the glory of Krishna. Just like here, Krishna is glorifying Bhishma Dev. Bhishma wanted to glorify Krishna. And he wanted to show the world to what extent the Lord will go to just to protect his devotees. You know, Krishna is known as Achyuta Bhakta Vatsala, right?
Yeah.
Krishna, he doesn't care, you know, he doesn't care if his reputation is broken, if people know that he is not speaking the truth or he broke his word, because Krishna promised, I will not raise the weapon. And just to show the world that Krishna is willing to break his promise just to save his devotees, how great a personality is this person? Bhishma engineered this situation because only Bhishma could do it. Nobody else could do it. Because, you know, Arjuna was a great warrior. Nobody else could defeat Arjuna. Only Bhishma could do it. So Bhishma was going to fight in such a way that he will put Arjuna into a danger. And unless Krishna himself steps in to save Arjuna, Arjuna may die. Only Bhishma could do this. So therefore, he purposely did this because he wanted Krishna to break his promise just to save his devotee. And that's the greatest glorification that Bhishma could do for Krishna. So that's one reason. So the world will know, right? And Krishna wanted that also. Krishna always likes to take these opportunities whenever he can to show the world that he is always there for his devotees. So that's one reason. Second reason is Bhishma, he has this certain bhava. You know, there is 5 rasas, isn't it? Shanta rasa, Vatsalya rasa, Sakya rasa, Madhurya rasa. These are the 5 principal rasas. But there are also some sub-rasas. And one of those sub-rasas is the chivalry. I forgot the Sanskrit name, but it's chivalry. It's like a warrior. The warrior wants to see another warrior fight with him, and he gets transcendental ecstasy. So Bhishma wanted to see Krishna raise his weapon and come towards him. That ecstasy, which, you know, it's difficult to describe. Imagine the greatest personality in the world raising his weapons and rushing towards you and coming to fight with you. So that ecstasy he wanted to experience because he's a warrior, right? So Bhishma's mood is like that. So he wanted to experience that ecstasy. So that's why he did this. So there are other reasons also, but these are the main reasons. So I hope that clarifies for you.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Any other questions? So tomorrow is Balaram Purnima. Happy Balaram Purnima in advance to everybody. Hope we can have a wonderful celebration. So if there are no
Prabhu, not to forget the prasadam.
What prasadam?
Balaram prasadam.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean the feast are going to serve in the temple.
Oh yes. There will be nice prasadam also.
Lunch will be there.
Yeah, Balaram is very beautiful. He makes me half day. Okay, so I'll see you all. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam.
Jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Hare
Thank you so
Krishna.
much.
Hare Krishna.